It's funny how we often find ourselves caught in the middle of debates that seem to polarize opinions. And one of the hottest topics in recent years has been tobacco versus vaping. It's like a modern-day duel, but instead of swords, we're wielding cigarettes and vape pens. And let's be honest, if you've ever been in a conversation about this, you've probably heard all sorts of opinions flying around like confetti at a parade. So today, let's take a deep dive into this topic and see what's really going on with these two contenders in the ring. Let's start with tobacco. For centuries, tobacco has been a staple in cultures around the world. From the ceremonial use by indigenous peoples to the casual enjoyment of a cigarette at a bar, it's been woven into the fabric of society. But we all know the downsides. The health risks are plastered all over the warnings on the cigarette boxes. Lung cancer, heart disease, respiratory issues. It's like a grim reminder that every time you light up, you're playing a game of Russian roulette with your health. But here's the kicker. Even with all that knowledge, people still smoke. Why? Well, it's complicated. For some, it's about the ritual, the act of taking a break, stepping outside for a moment of solitude, or sharing a smoke with friends. For others, it's the addiction to nicotine. Nicotine is a powerful substance that hooks you in, and once it has you, it's not easy to break free. Studies have shown that nicotine can be as addictive as heroin or cocaine, which is a staggering comparison when you think about it. Now, let's pivot to vaping. It's the new kid on the block, the shiny alternative that promised to be the savior for those looking to quit smoking. The marketing behind vaping is slick and appealing. You've got colorful devices, a plethora of flavors, everything from mango to mint, and the perception that it's a safer option. But is it really? When vaping first hit the scene, it was marketed as a healthier alternative to smoking. The idea was that you could get your nicotine fix without all the harmful tar and chemicals found in traditional cigarettes. And sure, it's true that vaping doesn't produce the same kind of smoke, but that doesn't mean it's without its risks. For one, the liquid used in vape pens contains a variety of chemicals, and while they might not be the same as those found in cigarettes, that doesn't mean they're harmless. Some studies have shown that certain vape liquids can produce harmful substances when heated, and the long-term effects of inhaling these substances are still largely unknown. It's like we've jumped from one uncertain territory into another, thinking we've found a safe harbor, but the waters are just as murky. And let's not forget about the youth factor. Vaping has exploded in popularity among teenagers, and that's where things get particularly concerning. The flavors are enticing, and the sleek designs are attractive, making it all too easy for young people to pick up a vape pen without fully understanding the risks. There's a growing concern that vaping could lead to nicotine addiction in a new generation, which is a real paradox, considering the push to reduce smoking rates among youth. So, which is worse? Well, the answer isn't as straightforward as we might hope. It really depends on the lens through which we're viewing this issue. If we look at it from a public health perspective, traditional tobacco smoking has a long and established history of causing serious health issues. The evidence is clear and overwhelming. But vaping is still relatively new. And while it may not contain the same harmful components as cigarettes, we don't yet have a full understanding of its long-term health impacts. What's interesting is that some studies suggest that while vaping might be less harmful than smoking, it's not entirely risk-free. There have been reports of lung injuries associated with vaping, which has raised alarms among health professionals. And then there's the issue of dual use. Many smokers are now using both cigarettes and vape pens, which complicates the picture even further. But here's where it gets really nuanced. Many smokers have turned to vaping as a means to quit smoking. For them, it's a stepping stone, a way to reduce their tobacco intake and eventually kick the habit altogether. There's evidence that suggests vaping can be an effective smoking cessation tool, but the key is to ensure that it doesn't become a lifelong substitute. We want to help people quit, not just swap one addiction for another. Let's also talk about the social aspect of both. Smoking has been stigmatized over the years, and for good reason. public smoking bans have made it less socially acceptable, and many people are now more conscious about the impact of secondhand smoke. Vaping, on the other hand, has a different social dynamic. Some people see it as trendy or cool, while others view it with skepticism. It's a mixed bag, and the social acceptance can vary widely depending on where you are. Now, consider the environmental impact. Cigarette butts are one of the most littered items in the world. They're not biodegradable and can take years to break down, leaching harmful chemicals into the environment. On the flip side, while vape pens might not produce the same kind of waste, they do have their own environmental footprint. The plastic components and lithium batteries used in vape devices raise concerns about waste and pollution. It's a reminder that our choices don't exist in a vacuum. They ripple out and affect the world around us. So, as we weigh the pros and cons, it's essential to approach this topic with a balanced mindset. It's not about demonizing one or the other, but rather understanding the complexities involved. The conversation should focus on harm reduction, education, and support for those looking to quit smoking altogether. At the end of the day, whether it's tobacco or vaping, the goal should be clear. We want to promote healthier choices and reduce the harm associated with nicotine use. For smokers, finding a way to quit is paramount, and for non-smokers, avoiding nicotine products altogether is the best route. Now, I know this can feel overwhelming, especially with all the information and misinformation out there. It's easy to get lost in the sea of opinions, studies, and personal anecdotes. But here's the thing. It's crucial to arm ourselves with knowledge and make informed choices. If you're a smoker, consider reaching out to a healthcare professional for support. If you're a young person, think critically about the choices you're making and the potential consequences. Let's not forget that our health is our most valuable asset. It's worth prioritizing and protecting. Whether you're a longtime smoker, a vapor, or someone who's never touched either, we all have a role to play in this conversation. So, as we wrap this up, I encourage you to think about your own relationship with nicotine. Whether it's through tobacco or vaping, what choices are you making, and how do they align with your values and health goals? It's a personal journey, and it's one that deserves careful consideration. In the end, the real question isn't necessarily which is worse, but rather how we can work together to create a healthier future for ourselves and those around us. Let's keep the dialogue open, share our experiences, and support one another in making choices that lead to better health and well-being. Because at the end of the day, that's what it's all about. Taking care of ourselves and each other in a world that can sometimes feel chaotic and confusing. Thank you for joining me in this exploration of tobacco versus vaping. I hope this has shed some light on the topic and maybe even sparked some thoughts of your own. Remember, knowledge is power, and the more we understand, the better equipped we are to make choices that benefit our health and our lives. Stay informed, stay healthy, and take care of yourself.